Hello, it's your girl Rose Archangel. Welcome back to Therapist Pray 2. Today is going to be episode 5, and I have the honor and pleasure of meeting with Sonya, Antoine, one of my friends and colleagues and sorors. And today we will be talking about what it looks like to be an author and an LPC, a licensed professional counselor. She does wear many hats, but I would definitely give her the floor and the opportunity to go ahead and share with us her hats. Today we'll just have a conversation about what life has looked like for her, introducing a book that she co-authored, and she also has a positive affirmation book, but I'll let her talk about that. Before we go into it, I do want to read her scripture that resonates with her, that she meditates on, and that scripture does come from Psalm, a book of David, Psalm 23:1. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. And so without any further hesitation, I will go ahead and turn it over to Mrs. Antoine. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, hello, everyone. Rose, super proud of you for taking this leap of faith and starting your own podcast. So it's an honor to not only say that you are my friend, but my soror and colleague, and now to be on your platform. I am thankful. So thank you for extending the invitation.
Oh my God, you're welcome. You're so welcome. I most certainly do appreciate it. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So I am Sonya Antoine, a licensed professional counselor. I am nationally certified. I am the owner of Positively Affirmed Therapeutic Services based out of Lafayette, Louisiana. I am also licensed in Texas. As Rose stated, I do wear several different hats. I am also a certified life coach, youth mental health specialist, grief-informed professional, transformational coach, mindfulness and meditation coach, target health youth facilitator, and recently I became a TBRI practitioner as well as an adjunct professor. And so,
wow,
I stay busy.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I can't even remember all these things that you just stated, but I'm absolutely proud of you, and I love that. And I love that you love what you're doing. What first brought you into the mental health field?
Well, it was a journey that I believe started back long before I knew that there was a name for it. Always listening and just being present for other people, but in high school, I took a psychology course, which Coach Joey, and it was just an awesome class. And I remember falling in love with psychology, and I wanted to study it. And so when I graduated high school, coming into USL, which is now the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, I was a psychology major. But my mom didn't think that was the best route. She, I think, had watched too many television shows where, the outcome wasn't always the best for the psychologist. And so she was like, well, I think somebody might try to kill you. You might want to go into the medical field. And I'm like, Mama, like what? So fast forward years later, where did I find myself at? Right in the very field she was trying to get me out of. And wow. She was like, it must have been meant, because look where you are now. And I do believe that it was meant.
Wow. Awesome. I love that. So can you tell us a little bit about your projects and things that you've been a part of, and what kind of inspired you to write?
So, I have always had a passion for writing, whether it was poetry or just a reflection. But the opportunity to co-author the Reset Journey from Surviving to Thriving anthology came about through the visionary author Jaquithia Prejean. And her and I have been knowing one another for some years, and I always looked up to her. And so when she brought it to me, as something that she was thinking about doing and wanted to know if I wanted to be a part of it, it was like a no-brainer, because this was my opportunity to tell a small part of my story, what I was actually dealing with on my journey to becoming an LPC. And I thought it was a great way to get it out to those who would actually read the book once it was published.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. And there's another project that you're also a part of. I'm sure you've been a part of several, but can you also talk to us about the positive affirmation?
Yes. So I did author the I Am Define Who You Are 10-week positive affirmation journal. And it's actually an extension of me and the work that I do. When you follow me, one of the things you'll see that I'm big on positive affirmations, or I am. And it's about, empowerment. It's about resilience. It's about identity. And I Am Define Who You Are has now become my signature message, because I am a believer, and because of who God is. He is the great I am. I remember sitting through a Sunday service. It was Pastor Mike McClure Sr. who pretty much laid out a different perspective for me when it came to I am. And he basically stated, to summarize it, whatever follows it, God will put his hands on it. And for me, that has definitely been, my testimony, that as long as I trust him, believe in the great I am, I get to define who I am. And so I go back to when I first went to a women's empowerment event, and that speaker asked us to write 25. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I could only write 5. But if you were to look, through my journal that I have now published, my phone, even the whiteboards that I keep in my home office, mm-hmm. I have tons and tons of I ams, because I now walk my life out using positive affirmations, even on the hard days.
Wow. I love that. So to put you on the spot, can you give us one that resonates with you on one of those hard days? One of those positive affirmations?
Absolutely. One of my go-tos is typically, I am covered by God's grace.
Now that's beautiful. And I'm sure many people can, have multiple perceptions of that I am. What does that one look like for you? How does it minister to your heart?
Well, for me, it's about reminding myself that I am covered, and he extends grace to me. So why can't I extend grace to myself?
Wow. That is big. It almost is like practice what we preach, right?
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
And as therapists, I know sometimes, it's just second nature. We're in these sessions, we're face to face with our clients, and we're encouraging and we're motivating and we're giving the positive affirmations and the mantras and the positive self-talk. And then sometimes we have to question ourselves like, wow, yeah, we really need to practice what we preach. We done told clients to do this. We encourage and motivation. Sometimes we have to motivate ourselves. So I love that for you.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where I oftentimes tell clients, again, you can't control everything that shows up in your life, but you can control how you react and you respond to it. And so at the end of the journal, I wrote a little takeaway, I call it a takeaway note from it all. And it just reads, positive affirmations can breathe life into your day. Don't let your negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions define or control you. My hope is this positive affirmation journal serves as a reminder of who you are and who you can be. Remember to positively affirm yourself daily because you get to define who you are.
Wow. And it's so true. And it's so true. And it's these affirmations that motivate the readers to keep going and motivate your students and your clients and even your children, colleagues and friends. It may seem like a simple affirmation to some, but for some it's very powerful, very encouraging and very motivational. So I love that. I love that. What was the hardest part of writing this process? What was the hardest part emotionally or mentally for you?
Honestly, I don't know that I had a hard spot
Okay.
with either of the projects because once I gave my yes and my commitment to the anthology, of course we had deadlines that we had to meet or whatever. But when I sat down to write, it was like everything just flowed, because I was telling my story.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me, that was my motivation. That was my fuel because it's like, OMG, like somebody is really going to be able to read this, what I feel like was one of the longest, processes in my life.
Right.
But it's only a few pages in the book, but somebody's going to be able to read it and take something away, from it, with the hopes of being encouraged not to give up, not to throw in the towel, because while you're in the storm,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like you'll never get out of the storm. But I I am here to tell you that even though it felt, like I would never, here I am on the other side of that particular storm, when I thought I was never going to get to the place of being an LPC. And now here I am, and
Awesome.
it's just been a beautiful journey.
I love that. Awesome. What do you hope readers feel after finishing your book? Is there anything in mind that you would hope they would feel or do differently or take from, your excerpt in the book or any one of your projects? Anything in particular?
I think I would want them to not give up,
Mm-hmm.
To stay encouraged, to remind yourself that, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. On those days where you want to throw in the towel, give yourself permission to breathe, to scream, to do whatever. But then, okay, girl. Okay, guy. If you're a guy, I can do this.
Right, right.
I'm ready to get back on it, to face whatever, because the reality is the obstacles are going to come.
Mm-hmm.
We can't prevent that. Life is going to throw you curveballs when you least expect it. So it's like, okay, what I need to do, I need to dodge, I need to go under, I need to jump over. I need to extend myself grace. I need to pray. I need to call my support and let them rally together around me, because sometimes we don't have the strength to do it on our own. So that's when we got to really lean in and ask, for that additional support, those additional prayers, cry it out. Baby, listen, there were some times where I was on my knees, on my face, because I didn't see a way out. So encouragement, empowerment, motivation, and the will to just keep going, I think is what I would hope that they would get out of either one of the books.
Awesome. So I just heard that prayer, and it is therapist pray too, right? So I definitely want to kind of look into that, right? So what would you say to people who feel like going to therapy means their faith is weak?
Baby, listen.
That part.
Listen. you're please don't doubt what you need, is what I would say.
Right.
If you have come to that place where you can't do it alone, and your social supports, your girls, your guys, your family can't help you, and God is nudging you, to say, hey, go get this, because you can get this and still stay connected to me, then do it.
Right.
There's there's nowhere that I'm aware of that it says that they can't coexist. I mean, let's go back to the scripture, the word. Faith without works is what? Dead.
Absolutely.
And so if you have faith but you're not putting in the work, what we doing?
Absolutely. Yep.
So it can very well coexist, and I'm that person, and you're not gonna see me, out here saying I'm that Christian therapist. I'm not promoting myself as such, but I tell you what, I'm about it all day.
Yeah, I see that on the shirt. I'm about it all day.
Yes, I'm about it all day. I even have a shirt that says God plus therapy, because at the end of the day, and I can only speak from me personally, right. And I think I can speak, for you too, when I say that we're about that. Yes. We don't allow what everybody may think about, God and therapy to define us. And so if a client comes in and that client, hey, can you pray with me? Our client calls and says, I need to know, do you believe in God? Are you a Christian? I'm going to answer that truthfully all day. And I know that you would too.
Absolutely.
And so, again, I feel like it can absolutely coexist. And don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't.
Right.
Come to therapy, because it goes against, because I haven't seen that written.
Okay. I love it. And it goes back to the scripture of choice for today, right? The Lord is my shepherd and I lack nothing. So it's in those days when the anxiety and the stressors are overwhelming and you're overexerted and you feel exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But that's a reference. You're able to go back and reference, the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. The Lord tells us to be anxious for nothing. He says, cast all our cares on him, and so this is in those days when we're struggling mentally, yes, I can have both. I can have Jesus and I can have therapy.
Yes. I do believe, Rose, too, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I do believe that, God wants us to heal. And if the things that we're doing isn't working, I believe that he knows that if we integrate therapy alongside his word, right? You're going to therapy, you're addressing those emotional struggles, you're addressing whatever mental health issues, and maybe even some trauma, you're getting what you need on that side, and then you're still aligning your faith practices with that can definitely lead to healing.
Absolutely. And that was the next thing I wanted to bring up, Sonya. What does emotional healing look like from both a clinical and a spiritual lens? And you kind of gave us some insight on that. Is there anything else you want to add to what the emotional healing does look like from both of those lenses, both a spiritual and clinical?
So I feel like, when we are talking about emotional healing, again, going back to what I just shared, it requires you to do work on both ends. And sometimes, in order to do that, you got to do some deep diving. It's understanding how to restore the broken heart. It's understanding how to find that peace, the strength, the things that, may keep you from really obtaining the healing that you need. And therapy, the therapist can help you to identify what your struggles are, giving you the psychoeducational material that you may need to help you learn how to effectively cope with whatever that may be. And in combination, again, the work that you're doing with your therapist or your counselor and the work that you're doing with the Lord in collaboration, that should help you get to a place where you're able to see the fruits of your labor, which could ultimately, end up being that healing that you thought that you never would have experienced. But because you've allowed yourself to walk this thing out from both sides,
wow,
you can get there.
Wow. That's powerful. That's very powerful. I appreciate that. Now this one here is for our strong Black women, Sonya. And I know we're gonna have, audiences of all different races and nationalities, so no offense, but in our culture, right, we're often looked at and seen as the strong Black women, and we do it all, and we know it all, and we pour into everyone. So this is for some of our strong Black women. How can strong women learn to receive support without feeling guilty? You have any advice for that?
Oh my goodness.
Because that's a hard one. I don't know about you, but that's a hard one for us to receive or even ask. First off, we ain't asking for no support. So even when someone is trying to offer or provide that to us, sometimes it is difficult for us to receive that because culturally we're supposed to be the strong women.
Absolutely. So I think, for one, it requires us. And notice I said us because it's a struggle sometimes to, put it down, because for some of us, if not many of us, we've carried it for so long. For myself as a single mother, when I look at my oldest being 26 years old, I've been carrying a lot of this for the past 26 years, right? Thankfully, I do have some family, and my family, I love them to death, but sometimes it is hard to ask for help, so it's overcoming the urge or the desire to, just want to do it all by yourself.
Right.
Accepting the fact that, girl, it's okay for you to put this down. It's okay for you to ask for what you need. It doesn't make you any less than. It shows strength and courage that you could, lower whatever defenses you may have built up, walls, barriers over the years, and put that aside so that you can truly experience what it's like to allow someone else to come in and do whatever that thing is that you may need them to do for you. And it doesn't have to be something that's permanent. It could be a temporary thing, that they're coming in to assist you with. But just being okay to say, you know what? I'm going to accept this. It doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me less than. It allows me to give myself some self-compassion.
Wow. Are you practicing what you're preaching, Sonya?
So here's the thing. I'm going to be totally honest. Today I had to do something that required me to be very vulnerable, very transparent, and ask for help. And it's hard because, like I said, I've been doing it by myself for so long that, that's all I know how to do.
You're right.
Get it. Do it. But it felt good today to be able to sit there and ask for what I needed.
Wow.
And there was no judgment. It was, oh my goodness, thank you for showing up for you. Thank you for asking for what you needed. Thank you for trusting me to be able to help you. So, I believe it's a win-win when we can allow ourselves to be vulnerable and be transparent and not feel like we got to continue to carry the weight. Because, man, carrying the weight is heavy.
It is heavy.
It's heavy.
Yes. It's very heavy. And we don't have to, right? We don't have to, and I don't think we should, right? I don't think we should. I saw a meme the other day. Someone posted, go get that manicure, get that pedicure, get you a housekeeper or a maid. And it was something else. And I was like, yeah, I love the sound of that. And get some rest. Because sometimes, no, we have to do it all, right? I don't have time for self-care because I have to be mom. I have to be wife. I have, all these things and duties and responsibilities. And it was like, you know what? Get that housekeeper. Get that maid. Take a day off, right? Kick your feet up. Go get that pedicure. And I was like, oh, I love the sound of that.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm not sure yet when I'm gonna go ahead and get that housekeeper, but it's on the to-do list. It's on the to-do list. Awesome. Let's see. I hope you have your book with us. Can you read a short passage that really represents the heart of your project? Even if, just a short passage or clips.
Yes. So, this one is from the reset journey from surviving to thriving. There's so many good things in this book.
I know. I'm sure there are. Absolutely.
So I'll just go here. It was a long journey, right? I remember struggling with the thought that I had made to make the decision to trust that God was going to provide for me no matter what. So with anxiety racing and my heart pounding, it was time to submit my application for full licensure to the LPC board. It was September 30th, 2022, when I sat down to hit the submit button. The thoughts of the LPC board, remembering the accusations from 2016, danced in my head. What if they deny me? What if they say, remember her? So many what ifs. But none of that really mattered, because on October 21st, 2022, I, Sonya Antoine, was approved for full licensure as a licensed professional counselor in the state of Louisiana. I ran outside and I fell to the ground, just praising and thanking God with tears flowing from my eyes. The day had finally arrived. It was time to add counseling to the list of services.
Wow. Yay. Oh, that's beautiful. I wish I had the little clappers. Yes. That was beautiful. You ran to the ground. Wow. I love that.
Yes, I think my LPCS probably was like, what is going on with this girl? But it was just a moment of mixed thoughts, feelings, emotions, but a lot of just gratitude, because God kept me on this course. It was nobody but him. And that's why I tell clients, especially when we get into this conversation about faith and God and trusting him, I remind them that I'm just a vessel.
Yes.
Because if it wasn't for him, I would not be an LPC with everything that you see behind my name. there were times, Rose, where I wanted to give up. You know, you heard me say 2016.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, I had gotten into a car accident. I was at home for 2 weeks, couldn't walk because I had injuries to my lower legs. Fast forward, I'm doing physical therapy. May 2016, I received a cease and desist letter from the licensing board because someone had reported that I was practicing without a license.
Wow. Wow.
And so I did not want to, continue, but it was nothing and nobody but God that gave me the fuel, to keep going. And he put certain people on my path that inspired me, my program. I shouldn't have even gotten back into my program, but they grandfathered me back in. That was a God move.
Wow.
I wasn't supposed to make it to my last practicum because my flight got canceled. My professor was like, I don't know that you're going to be able to do this. I don't know if I'm going to approve you to move forward. Listen, girl, talk about nothing but God.
Nothing but God. Oh my goodness. When they say when it rains, it pours. It was really pouring. It was really pouring.
Yes.
But your faith stood strong. You stood on your faith. You stood on that word. You lacked nothing. And I love that for you. Wow.
Thank you.
That was awesome. All right, Miss Sonya. Are we working on another book or any projects that we should be on the lookout for?
Things are constantly shifting and shaking over here. No author projects as far as I'm aware of, unless,
the
God
Lord says something else. Huh?
Yes. Coming down the pipeline and I don't know about it. But for right now, just focusing on, growing my practice and devoting more time to my youth mental health summits, which is a free event that I host twice a year. So we do the back to school experience and then the New Year mental health pulse check. And it's for our youth, it's giving back to them so that they can have the tools and the support that they need to be mentally and emotionally well as they continue to navigate this journey of life. Because we know when we reflect back, growing up, for me, I can say for certain, I was dealing with some anxiety and some depression, in my childhood, but I didn't know what it was called, I didn't know the fancy names for it, Sometimes, I can remember them saying, oh, she's just having a fit. Like, what is a fit?
Right.
We could do a fit circle on it,
right.
For us MST therapists, I'm sorry. But, so that's my focus right now, is to just build that out more. And continue to be able to give them the support that they need, because I know that they matter, their mental health matters. And in this climate, baby, we need the extra support all the way around.
Yes, we do. And with that being said, where can our listeners connect with you? Where can they get your books?
Yes, so connecting with me, I am on Facebook, Positively Affirmed with Sonya Tesaurus. I am on Instagram, and it's positively_affirmed Sonya. And I'm also, for my professionals, I'm on LinkedIn as well, Sonya Tesaurus Antoine. As far as the books are concerned, if you would like a copy of The Reset Journey from Surviving to Thriving anthology, the vision of the visionary author Jakithia Prejean, you can reach out to me directly, as I keep those on hand. But as far as the I Am Define Who You Are 10-week positive affirmation journal, you can go to Amazon.com
Okay.
and find it there. But I also keep some of them on hand in case someone wants it authorized. No, I'm just picking autograph.
I love it. Authorized. I love that. You might have to go ahead and coin that one. I like it. Authorized. Cool deal. Well, I know we're finishing up, and I certainly do appreciate your time and energy and effort and all of your expertise and your prayer and thoughts. What does healing look like for you in this season of your life as we close out this podcast today?
Ooh, what does healing look like for me? Healing looks like me setting healthy boundaries, clear expectations for not just myself, but for other people. Mm-hmm. For me, to really just be in this space of being still, practicing mindfulness, but most importantly, just staying connected with God and the Word and trusting Him. I truly believe that He hasn't brought me this far to leave me, and there's still a lot of work that I have to do. And I don't feel like healing is something that, I'll just be like, yep, I'm healed, wipe my hands with it, and I'm done. I feel like it's something that, I'm going to continue to walk out as I continue to live. Because, again, as I said earlier, life is always throwing you curveballs. And so there might be times where you stub your toe, or pass in next to the door and you pop your elbow. And so, just making sure that I'm constantly in a place of being mindful and aware of what's happening in me and around me, practicing self-care, because that's a part of it as well. And just loving myself, all of me, despite what I'm going through, because some days it's going to be, yay, girl, look at you, you got this. Some days it's going to be, listen, I just want to be still. But at the end of the day, it's me, and I get to define who I am, and I'm going to continue to do that as I continue to heal and show up for other people.
Wow. Well, that was a blessing, and I most certainly appreciate all that you have poured into us on this episode of Therapists Pray Too. Well, give us again your handles, just so that our audience and our listeners have that down pat so they can reach out to you.
Yes. So Instagram is positively_affirmed Sonya. Facebook is Positively Affirmed with Sonya Tesaurus. And LinkedIn for my professionals is my full name, Sonya Tesaurus Antoine.
Thank you, Ms. Antoine. I appreciate it. I just pray that God continues to bless you in your endeavors, and He continues to watch over you and cover you in everything that you do. He said in His word that anything that you put your hand to shall prosper, and I see that you are manifesting that in the fullness, and I am proud of you, and congrats again for all of your successes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, listeners, I'll see you guys on next week for another episode of Therapists Pray Too. Be blessed.